Hello, and welcome to the very first session of our very first Farm and Fiber Knits Knit Along. And I'm Kate Larson. I'm the editor of Farm and Fiber Knits and Spinoff Magazine. And I'm here with designer and local yarn shop owner, Jenny Monteleone. And she designed a wonderful project that goes along with a really interesting group of a constellation of content that we've just recently released. And so I'll start at the beginning because there's a lot of different things happening there. So this is the second year that Farm and Fiber Knits has created a documentary style video series interviewing a farm owner and a mill owner and tracking how the process happens behind the scenes where our yarn comes from. So we visited Lisa Westra of Feederbrook Farm in Maryland last year and did a tour of her mill and farm and saw how these really interesting self-striping yarns are created for Feederbrook. And in the course of the video, then you meet her friend and designer, Jenny, who is putting these really interesting self-striping yarns and solid yarns to use in different designs. And in the video series, there's 4 episodes. Jenny talks quite a bit about swatching and marled yarns and things like that. So we also asked Jenny to design a special project. So we have the Clover Ridge Cowl. So we'll show you a picture of that. Here we are. So this is Jenny's design, and it's just stunning. And her inspiration for it is really interesting. So we had her join us here to tell us a little bit more about herself and her process and where this beautiful knitted object that you will just want to wrap around your neck comes from. So Jenny, where did the inspiration for this begin?
That's a fun story. So first, I just want to say hi, everyone who's joining us tonight. And what a wonderful thing for all of us, you guys included, to be the first knit along for Farm and Fiber Knits, which is wonderful. So my son's girlfriend is a beautiful weaver. She's quite young, but I don't think she realizes all the time how talented she is. So when we have visited her, they live in Kingston, New York. She often has books laying around, what we might consider a stitch dictionary for knitters. But I happened to peek through a couple of them and was truly inspired, thinking, wow, you know, these could be great knitting patterns. And so fast forward to this winter when they visited for the holidays, she brought down a book. And I don't know if any of you out there watching are weavers, but as it turns out, this happens to be quite an expensive book, which I didn't realize. But remind me, guys, I will tell you that story when we see each other again. But I love to read things from the back to the front. And in doing so, I found a couple towards the end of the book that I was just completely wowed by. And fast forward, one of them turned into the Clover Ridge Cowl. So that's how it came to be.
Wonderful. Yeah. So there was a technique called overshot in weaving that Jenny was seeing weaving drafts for. And it's where the threads are passing, they're woven into the fabric. And then when you want to see, like in this case, a little flower, that weft yarn comes up over the top of the fabric, or the warp yarn, depending on how the pattern is put together, and creates this really interesting not only a color change, but a texture change. And so that's a lot like what we see in the Clover Ridge Cowl. So now tell us about what technique you used to make that happen in knitting.
Mm-hmm. So when I was looking through these and starting my project, I actually thought it might be stranded. Like in the beginning, I was kind of creating something stranded, but as I dove in and I was doing some research and I thought, wow, you know, I remember there was this technique that looked a lot like embroidery in knitting. And after doing a bunch of research, I learned about Estonian inlay knitting, often also called rosamina or rositude. And there are some incredible designers out there. I know you're staring at a slide right now by Nancy Bush. Is a beautiful pair of gloves. And you can see when you're looking at it how there is what appears to be sort of a hand embroidery done there that might have been done after the fact, but that is not true. It is actually done while you are knitting. So you're working with 2 colors at a time. And you are knitting particular stitches, often 1 to 5 stitches, while at the same time, or immediately after, you'll be laying strands across those stitches that were just knit. And those inlay stitches, those strands will float on the right side and the wrong side of your work as you go. And they create the most beautiful patterns. So it was quite interesting and fun to take that dive. To create not only what I came up with, but just to research it. I thought it was fascinating.
It is fascinating. And the Estonian tradition of using that technique, it's often in small areas or columns on sweaters and things. So I was really interested to see how you had made it an all over pattern. And I'll show you this next slide. This is a close-up of Jenny's cowl. So you can compare those two. So here's the traditional hand coverings with smaller areas of pattern, and then to look more like the woven overshot than using that as an all over pattern. And that's just so cool. So how many strands of yarn are you using here?
So in this particular pattern, you are using 3 strands of yarn. So some might find that it feels a little bit denser or heavier. It really isn't. But you have 1 strand in your main color. That is the background color that is self-striping. And then your inlay strands are 2 strands. The reason you're using 2 is because you need that that quantity of strands to cover the background fabric in order to stand out on its own.
Yeah, it's so cool.
It's really cool.
The way it works, with the self-striping yarns is just so it's so fun.
I was going to show you guys. So I don't know, Kate, if you want to take a moment and flip back to just us, but I was going to show you guys a little bit of what, in terms of learning and practicing. I had been working on some swatches and just playing with some different patterns that I had in my head. You can start to see a little bit of what was going on in the Clover Ridge. I was playing with the dots. I started playing with some dashes. I went back to some more dots. I guess I really like the dots. But a lot of people, I feel like they don't realize how much goes into creating an actual pattern. Many designers are spending hours and hours and hours. This was actually my second swatch when I pulled out Lisa's yarn. This was some scrap yarn that I had sitting aside. And I thought, wow, what am I going to pair with that overshot pattern to make it shine? Not just the pretty pattern that it is, but, so I added some ridges. So I was playing with my ridges. And down here, I started playing with how the ridges might pair with some of the dots. And then that was washed, blocked, came out beautiful. I thought, wow, I've got this now. And then I put it in the round. And then all these other challenges came to be. So this was my first swatch that I had done in the round. Honestly, I was knitting it like this. So I'm flipping it over for you. But different challenges, changing needle sizes, dealing with the join, the jogless join, which I happen to be very particular about. So this is just the beginning of what it took to make the Clover Ridge Cowl come to be.
I love it. And so I cast on to do some of the charts and just get a feel for the pattern. And another thing I really loved about it is you are also very fussy about the way the overlays work across the join. And so there's a couple of places where you're wrapping a stitch, and it's really interesting to see how you were solving those problems as they came up within the motif as it moved along. So that was a great thing that I learned from it. Yeah. And so this leads into color as well. So choosing a combination, and you talk about this some in the video series, but working with high contrast yarns really helps make this shine. And I, when I cast on, I was just using some scrap yarn that was around. So I actually used just 2 natural sheep
Oh,
shades.
beautiful.
And yeah, I was so
Beautiful.
excited. And I love both looks. And so now I need to knit more than one.
So I'm gonna, if you hold yours back up, I think this is cool. Hold yours back up.
Yep.
So I love it so much that I'm making one for myself. You guys currently have mine, which a good friend of ours who's online with us, Tiffany, she might not send it back. But this is one that I'm making. So you can see when it comes to color, you guys have some options as you go ahead and pick. If you're joining us for the knit along, you can do this self-striping version with a solid, or you could go ahead and work with 2 solids. And you've got a lot of choices to make ahead of you.
So many. And we put together, I asked Jenny if she would put together some color pairings that she would suggest. And when you're thinking about contrast, Jenny had this cool tip. So I'll let you explain the filter trick.
So when you guys are picking, if you're joining us for the knit along, please know that you've got lots of options. You might already have yarn in your stash. The yardage that you're looking for, well, first off, you're using DK weight, and you are looking for roughly, let me see here, about 520 yards for each colorway. So that is, if you have stash of your own, that's great. If you're going to be going shopping at your local yarn store, or we're loving the idea of encouraging you to go visit Lisa's website. She actually just told me about an hour before we got on today with you that she's got a whole bunch of new colorways that she's going to be posting, which is super exciting. But whether you're going shopping in your stash or another store, I love the idea of teaching you guys about a color trick that I learned along the way. I know Kate mentioned it before that I have a particular interest in contrast, but when you're putting all that effort and hard work into your project, you want your pattern to shine, especially when you're working with an architectural type pattern or motif, if you will. So one of the things that you can do is take a picture, an actual colored picture of your 2 skeins. So if you're looking at the screen, you'll see a self-striping yarn paired with a solid. And then the next thing you're going to go do is you're going to turn on your edit button and find this section where you can scroll over and turn that to black and white and actually edit that same photo. And look at it and say to yourself or ask yourself, hey, do I see contrast here? And if you look at this screen, you can see that there's definitely contrast. You can see towards the center left a little bit that there's something that looks a little darker grayer, but it's still lighter than the solid color on the right. So challenge yourself to try this little trick. When you are selecting your yarn. I go with the fact that contrast is king. If you want your project to shine, whether you're choosing solids or self-striping yarn paired with a solid, contrast is king. So I'm excited to see what you guys choose for our knit along.
Yes.
So looking at these, Kate's going to show you a couple. I paired up some ideas for you. This doesn't mean that this is what you're going to choose, but if you do want those, we have them available. This is Hertz paired with a teal. That's the color. Again, it's called Hertz. So right there is a really pretty colorway. Here's another one, a little bit brighter. And one of the things that we want to talk to you about is that right now you have witnessed the self-striping yarn being the background color. There is a section actually in the dashes where it swaps, the color dominant swaps in the actual piece. But there's no reason why you can't switch that and have the background be the dark and your self-striping be the inlay that happens, the Estonian inlay portion of it. And just as a side note, if any of you have actually viewed the pattern already, by the time we meet for our next knit along, we will have the patterns, like the literal charts, flipped for those of you that decide to make that, if you choose to do your self-striping yarn, just so it's easier to read for you.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we have one more. And this is where we have the marl as the medium, and we have a light color as the solid. So I was really excited to see this one.
Yeah,
pop
I
up
think
on
that
your
would be
list.
really pretty. Really pretty. That's a new colorway for Lisa too, to the right and left. That's one of her new solid colors. I call it oatmeal. I'm not sure what she does, what she calls it. I think it looks like the most beautiful oatmeal.
Yes, and that you went shopping in your own shop, right?
I did. I did for this. I went shopping in my own shop.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention it earlier. So Jenny's shop is called Rose of Pearl, and we just did a yarn crawl post on the Farm and Fiber Knits website, so you can go on and see what it's like at the shop, and we have a little back and forth with Jenny about her LYS, because they are so important in our community.
Yes.
All right. So do we have any questions? It's a good time to put some questions in the chat box if you'd like to ask us anything. And you are always welcome to continue sending us questions for the knit along or the pattern, or, you know, what colorway Jenny held up during the talk, all that kind of thing. We're very happy to help. And we'll show you this last slide with what comes next. So this is just our very first get together. And so we wanted to talk about the pattern and the colors and palettes and how you might start thinking about those things. But the actual kickoff for the pattern will happen on April the 16th. And Jenny and I will be back, and we will start talking about specifics with the pattern and the instructions. And Jenny and I will both demonstrate how we manage the yarns and how you might make that work for your knitting style. So here's what I would suggest you do is, first, if you're a subscriber, you can go get the pattern. It's already loaded up to the Farm and Fiber Knits library. So if you go to farmandfibernits.com/library, or just go to the website, and up on the bar at the top of the page or the drop down, you're going to see library. You just go in there and find the Clover Ridge Cowl. And on that same library page, we've gathered a group of tutorials. So there's a tutorial for how to wind your yarn into a center pole ball, because you'll need both ends if you don't have a ball winder. So we've got you covered. And a tutorial on the provisional cast on. So what we would like you to do is get your pattern, get some yarn, even if it's what you want to just start swatching with, and do your provisional cast on. And Jenny, you wanted to also ask them to do the first round. Is that right?
I do. Yeah. And I'm going to give you a pointer. So when you guys print your patterns, be sure to print them in color, because those charts have information on them that you're going to be able to make healthier choices if you see them in color. And I would love for you, as a homework, not only select your yarn, have it wound properly, but do your provisional cast on and work one knit round. It is spelled out clearly in the beginning of the pattern. And that way, when we start our knit along, we can jump right in and be knitting at the same time right into the Estonian inlay. So you don't have to wait. You can start right with us. I know a question came up about what type of fiber you might want to select for this pattern. One tip that I have is that if you're going to choose superwash yarn, I recommend that the entire project be in superwash yarn. If you're going to choose non-superwash, I recommend that the entire pattern be in non-superwash. As far as fiber goes, I don't, in swatching, like with the few that you've seen here, quite a bit of it was honestly done in Lisa's yarn because it was intended to be for Lisa. Having said that, I design for a couple of other people, and I work solely with a few different fibers and then transfer into other people's yarn, because I too like to see what it might knit up in a single ply or in a chainette construction. So I don't know that in this pattern you have to be specific to one over another. I know if you're using something with an alpaca that might have a lot of fuzz or a lot of guard hair to it, that you might prefer that be the overshot or the, like the inlay, the Estonian inlay color work versus being the background. That might be one suggestion that I have for you. Outside of that, I think that the rule that I would stick to is what I said earlier. If you're going to go with superwash, make the entire pattern superwash. And if it's non-superwash, all of it non-superwash. Yeah.
That's really great advice. And we can also share the slide, the very first slide again, where we've got the yarns that were used in the pattern. So what's suggested there is 2 skeins of Feederbrook Farm Entropy DK, which is a blue-faced Leicester wool. And so blue-faced Leicester is a luster long wool type sheep. And so it's really bouncy and curly and lustrous. So it gives a really interesting look. And then Equilibrium, it's the one that has a little bit of sparkle added, right?
It does. Equilibrium has sparkle. It's not, I mean, when you look at the skein, it is, actually, I might have one right here. It is throughout the skein, but I know that just seeing it reflecting in the light, like it's subtle. It's very subtle. And if you've ever met me at a show, every single thing that I make is out of this yarn for Lisa. And most people are like, I don't want sparkle. They make a face about sparkle. I'm like, oh, go look at that color. Do you like that one? Oh, I love this. I'm like, that one has sparkle. So sometimes I've been able to turn people on to jumping out of their box a little bit. But Lisa has made all of her dark colors. She's done 100 skeins this weekend for us. And she has done them without sparkle, for those of you that don't like sparkle. And she's done some beautiful deep navies, a beautiful charcoal, a burgundy. She calls it claret. It's gorgeous. She's done a couple of them for you guys. So if you're interested in one versus the other, if I'm being honest, you'll have a better luck at the moment getting the non-sparkle version from her. Yes.
Wonderful. And I think, Jenny, you said that Lisa had, she knew we were coming with a code.
She does know we were coming. So in honor of supporting us, because she loves what's been going on with Farm and Fiber and everything that they've done for us, she wants to pass that on to you guys. So she's offered a discount code. It is for 15% off a purchase from her online store. And the code, if you guys grab a pen or go ahead and text it to yourself on your cell phone, it is capital F, capital F, capital S, 2025, and we're going to go ahead and post it in the chat so you can write it down or also take a picture of it in the chat before we end today. Again, capital F, capital F, capital S as in Sam, 2025. And again, that's for 15% off if you're shopping on our online store, and she's very thankful if you do so.
Yes. Yes. And so if you want to learn more about where that particular yarn comes from, that's where the video series that I mentioned earlier, if you go to the Farm and Fiber Knits website, you can see how the yarn is made. So it's an inclusive experience from beginning to end. And did we have any other questions before we wrap up?
I believe someone's asking about the store name, and I'm not sure if you missed earlier. So I own the store Rose of Pearl in Chester, New Jersey. It's a little historic downtown, northeast New Jersey, northwest sort of New Jersey. Some people call it Spaghetti Junction. I'm like, just outside of where all the highways go a little crazy.
Wonderful. All right. So it has been wonderful working with you on all of this content and getting to know you. And I'm so glad that you were able to join us here tonight and take a look at what you've been doing. And so again, we will be back on April the 16th. If you have not already done it, you probably have, everybody, but join the Farm and Fiber Knits newsletter list, and that's where we will send out the next notification. You can also go to the website. There's a page for the knit along. And again, if you have any trouble reaching us, just drop us an email at team@farmfiberknits.com. That's also on the website and down at the bottom of the page here, right there. Yep. And we'll be happy to help you in any way we can. So thanks for joining us. Jenny, thank you so much for all of your enthusiasm.
Thank you. And we can't wait to see you guys next time. We're super excited. So April 16th at 6 p.m. I expect big things from all of you. Yes. Eastern Standard Time. Yep. Eastern Standard.
Yes. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Bye.